The next person we're going to be speaking with is probably best known for her 1989 hit single Fallen, which was featured prominently in the film Pretty Woman starring Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. She's a talented singer-songwriter who actually has a songwriting credit on the Montrose album Paper Money. During her career, she's worked with a number of highly respected artists, including Michael McDonald, drummer Jim Keltner, Patrick Simmons of the Doobie Brothers, and Toto's Steve Lukather. She's also worked with Ronnie Montrose, so let's get her on the phone and have her tell us all about that. Joining me on the phone from Laurel Canyon, California, is Lauren Wood. Welcome.
Hey, Dan.
Well, I've been asking everyone, when was the first time they heard Ronnie Montrose's music, and how and when did they meet him? So I'll go ahead and ask you that as well.
I think I met him before I heard his music.
Oh, that's different.
We had the same producer at Warner Brothers named Ted Templeman.
Yeah.
I think you know of Ted.
His name's come up a lot today.
Van Halen and Sammy Hagar. And
Montrose and the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, a lot of hard rock and, pop stuff. So I had heard about Ronnie, and also he was dating one of my best friends.
There you go.
I'd heard a lot of things about him. I heard he was a really great guy, incredible musician, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard his music after, And when I met him, he was so cute. He just looked like the boy next door rocker.
Yeah.
And usually guys this cute aren't really that nice to girls who are as quirky as me. At the time, I was wearing, round glasses, and I had a big afro. And I was playing, sort of classical cartoon music with my band, Chunky, Novy, and Ernie. Uh-huh. But he was so sweet and so respectful and kind. I just absolutely adored him. He was just sweet, sweet, sweet. You just couldn't have, met a nicer guy. Just really, really nice. And when I finally heard his guitar playing, I went, oh, my God, how does he get that sound? It was so beautiful and melodic and passionate. And I really wasn't, usually wasn't that big of a fan of heavier music.
Right.
But his guitar playing was so gorgeous and so melodic and so musical. I went, oh, well, okay, I like him. So, and when he played on, I think it was in 1979, he played on my recording of, I recorded Steely Dan's song Dirty Work.
Yeah.
And we had him play the solo on it, and when that solo came out of him, it was like I was just floored. It's still one of my favorite moments on my record.
Yeah, it's tasty.
And every time I hear it, I go, oh, that is so sweet.
And not only the note selection, but I like the way his guitar, the way it feeds back in certain spots. You can tell he was playing loud.
Absolutely. But it was so beautiful. It just wasn't, it wasn't hideous and distorted. It was just soaring. It just soared, and it had so much feeling.
Well, we have to mention you actually have a songwriting credit on the Montrose album Paper Money.
Yes, which was going to be a story I was going to tell you. He was actually the very, very first artist who ever did a cover recording of one of my songs. And that song was Underground, and it was on the Paper Money album. Uh-huh. And Sammy Hagar was the lead vocalist on that. And to this day, I have to say, it's the only time anyone ever covered one of my songs, and I actually like it better.
Oh, wow. That's
version.
High praise.
Not to be, I don't mean to be big-headed, but, most people just don't get it right. Well, he got it, not only did he get it right, he got it much better.
Wow.
So that was really wild. And what was so interesting, too, was, and I think I have a little funny story here, my band, Chunky, Novy, and Ernie, we used to live together up in the Hollywood Hills, and we used to stack the mail up on the grand piano in the living room where we used to rehearse. And so there was a big stack of mail sitting on the grand piano. So one night in the middle of the night, I finally get around to digging my mail out of this big stack. They'd been sitting there for weeks, and I open up this an envelope from Warner Brothers Records, and I'm thinking, what is this? And I went, oh, how cool! Not only did I like, how he recorded or love how he recorded the song, but look, it looks like I made $50 on this song. And then I looked at it again, and I went, oh my God, it's $5,000.
Nice.
And at the time, I was just a struggling artist, and I screamed in the middle of the night and woke up the band, you know. I mean, I had no idea you could make money on cover tunes.
Well, of course, when all of us write songs, we never expect to ever get a penny for it.
Yeah, I was just flattered that he recorded the song, you know. And
Yeah.
and he did it so great. And then he also did one more song. He took one of my songs and he took the lyrics from one of my songs and then wrote different music to it, and that was called Crazy for You.
Oh, nice.
So he wrote the music and I wrote the lyrics on that. And I can't even remember which of my songs that was. I was trying to think about that today, and I went, I don't even remember which of my songs that was.
Well, I think a lot of people who've listened to Montrose didn't maybe know that Good Rockin' Tonight was originally by Elvis, or 20 Flight Rock was Eddie Cochran, and, you know, where some of those songs derive from, but he made them so unique and changed them around that it really didn't kind of matter what the original was like.
Absolutely. Like the version he did of Underground was nothing like Chunky, Novy, and Ernie, and it was so wonderful. It was so unexpected.
And I'm guessing that every time the format changes from vinyl to CD or whatever is down the horizon, maybe some more checks show up.
Yeah, I think nothing like that one particular first check. But yeah, there is still some stuff that comes in, you know, from around the world.
A lot of the artists who have popular back catalogs, you know, Zeppelin, the Doors, the Beatles, whoever, a lot of people, well, the new thing is the CDs, so they go rebuy everything, and all those artists get a big bump.
Yeah, it is cool when that happens. And so I actually, you know, I don't know if I hadn't seen Ronnie for so many years, but I've always had such, you know, great memories of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I called my cousin, who was the Novy of Chunky, Novy, and Ernie, and she was just telling me that we both went down and hung out with him when he was working with, we weren't sure if it was Edgar or Johnny Winter that we met, but all the guys were so nice. I think it was actually, it might have been an Edgar Winter song, and Johnny might have been producing it.
Right.
And she just remembers Ronnie as just being an absolute sweetheart, and she played on, I think, one of his songs, Shipwrecked or something. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she just had the same feeling about him, too, that he was an absolute doll. You just couldn't have met a nicer guy. And more talented and humble, you know. He looked like he was this, you know, hotshot rocker, clean-cut rocker kid, you know, but humble and kind and sweet. So I have nothing but good memories about Ronnie.
Well, we've been asking everybody what song they might want to do as a personal tribute. If it's okay with you, I want to go ahead and play Dirty Work so we can all listen to that guitar solo of his. And, you know, anything to do with Steely Dan is always welcome on my show.
Yeah, I love Steely Dan, too. That would be fantastic. I would love that. That would be great.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about your experiences with Ronnie Montrose. You know, on behalf of my listeners and myself, thanks very much.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome, and I'm honored to be a part of the tribute.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and listen to Dirty Work. This is from Lauren Wood's self-titled album. It came out in 1979. Let's go ahead and listen.
Times are hard, you're afraid to pay the fee, so you find yourself somebody who can do the job for free. When you need a bit of loving, 'cause your woman's out of town, that's the time you get me running, and you know I'll be around. I'm a fool to do your dirty me just the same. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I'm a fool. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I'm a fool.
Well, for most of us, the news of Ronnie's passing has mainly meant a sense of disappointment that he won't be releasing any new music in the future or playing any more live shows. But for my next guest, his absence means quite a bit more. Dan McNay was the current bass player in Ronnie Montrose's band, so he's not only lost a musical hero, he's also lost a bandmate, a boss, and most importantly, a close friend. I know he spent the last few days comforting and probably being comforted by Ronnie's immediate family. He's kindly agreed to take some time out to talk to us about his experiences with Ronnie Montrose, so let's get him on the line. Well, joining me on the phone from San Francisco, California, is Dan McNay. Hi, Dan. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing, Dan?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I know this is a tough time for you, so I really appreciate you taking a moment to speak with us about Ronnie. I'm going to start by asking the same questions I've been asking everybody else, which is about your initial experience the first time you heard the music of Ronnie Montrose.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, you know, me and the singer Randy Scholes are here, and I guess me personally, when my first experience viewing Ronnie Montrose, my uncle took me to a day on the green when I was a teenager, and it was Kansas UFO Gamma featuring Ronnie Montrose, 38 Special, and REO Speedwagon.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my uncle kind of getting us up towards the front there. I was watching Ronnie, and as far as I was concerned, as a fan of rock and roll, I mean, he pretty much tore up every guitar player that day. I remember that impression. That was my first impression of Ronnie Montrose.
We're talking about UFO with Michael Schenker.
Indeed.
And Kansas has some good guitar players, but I agree, Ronnie, particularly if he wasn't a headliner, I can definitely imagine him wanting to be sure everybody knew who was in command of the guitar that day.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't recognize, I wasn't a full-throttle musician at the time. I was a young man, you know, and just kind of getting into it. And I guess it was the shapes he was throwing, the way he was playing. It just, you know, it made more sense to me than any other guitar player that I saw that day.
I'm from Sacramento, so I remember the day on the green quite well, because in the 70s and 80s, there was really no venue, except maybe the Memorial Auditorium in Sacramento, for the larger acts to play, maybe Cal Expo, but almost always we'd go to San Francisco or Oakland to see Rush or Van Halen or Kansas or ZZ Top, and it kind of added the fun, doing the 80-mile drive, seeing the show, driving 80 miles back. Let's jump later in time and have you tell us how you met Ronnie Montrose and got the gig playing bass in his band.
Well, I think I got the gig in several different ways. One of the ways was I was living in Los Angeles and playing with, you know, Mitch Perry, Ed Ross, you know, all these great musicians down there. And the singer at the time, Keith, would, you know, come in and try and sit in with us. So he basically saw me play there. The other end of the spectrum is, you know, Ronnie, he touches a lot of different musicians along the way, and he's friends with, you know, Tesla and those guys. And I filled in for Brian Wheat playing bass in Tesla, and I was also in the Frank Hannon band, you know, doing his solo stuff, you know, doing a record with him. And, you know, and then there's his ex-brother-in-law, Ronnie's ex-brother-in-law, John Morris, who owns a studio up north, who also recorded the record. So, you know, he suggested my name, or somebody suggested my name at the time, and, you know, he just kind of made a few phone calls, and everybody gave him a thumbs up and said, yeah, this guy can play. You know, thank goodness for that, because it's been, honestly, the greatest honor, you know, so.
What year did you start playing with Ronnie?
I want to say My first gig with him was in 2009.
We've been talking about the different phases he's gone through with the Montrose Band, with the solo albums, with Gamma. Have you been playing a variety of styles, and what's the audience reaction like? They just love it all?
Well, it's interesting, yeah. I mean, he's got rabid fans, and those songs are staples in rock and roll history as far as I'm concerned. You know, the Montrose records and the Gamma material is amazing. When I first started playing with him, we were just running down, you know, the best of Montrose pretty much. And it was a revolving door of drummers. You know, there was, Mick Brown from Dokken and Ted Nugent. There was Brent Fitz, who went on to play with Slash now, and I played with Mike Vanderhill from Y&T and Les Warner from the Cult, and it was a lot of different personnel, and we were just doing the Montrose stuff. I think Ronnie's just always mutating and passing and loves to play, in different situations, push himself with different players, try and feel a 4/4 beat, 99 different ways. You know what I mean? He's just an interesting guy that way. So, things kind of changed. He decided he was going to switch singers, and he wanted a solid band. So I basically told me he was going to stop for a minute there. He just kind of scraped the slate clean, proverbial slate clean, and he called me one day and said, "Hey, listen, I want you to re-audition for my band. I'm going to have a bunch of drummers and bass players." And I said, "Thanks, Ronnie. I appreciate the opportunity. What are you looking for in a drummer? I've seen you play with so many different drummers, and I've played with you with different drummers, and what are you looking for?" And he just said, "I want two guys to play well together." And I asked him who his favorite drummer was at the time that he played with, and the guys I played with, and he said it was Mick. And I just so happened to be, have a history with Mick's little brother, Stevie, who's also a drummer.
Yeah.
And they play similar. So I decided to bring Stevie down there, and that was the first time, I think Ronnie and Mick had a connection just because of the type of people they were. And I grew up around Mick, so Stevie and Mick are similar that way. They're family, they're brothers.
It's
so
DNA. That was a shrewd move on your part.
Yeah, well, it meant a lot to me to get the gig. It was like meant the world to me.
Yeah.
So I had Stevie come down. I actually flew up to meet with him first the day before the audition, and I said, "Let's get in a room together, let's play a little music and get it together, and we'll go down there and we'll kick butt." So we heard the group before us. We go in there, we play. We played two songs. Ronnie goes, "I've heard enough. That was great, fellas. I got to continue on trying people out, and I just want to kind of get a glance at everybody." But he was like all smiles. I could tell. I've worked with him before, so I could tell that he liked what we did. And I listened to the group after us, and they were all great players. I mean, to be honest with you, everybody was credible and awesome. But, we just went in there and we played the songs, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think we weren't, trying to show off or, the songs are amazing the way they are. And you just, you got to honor the songs, the material, the legacy. So that's what we did. That was the path we chose, and it worked out. And then, we did that. We toured across the country. We got the gig together, and everybody, it just formed in this family thing. It just became this great thing, We're traveling around. There's still a few hiccups with singers, and that's when Randy came on board. And Randy, again, I asked him, I said, "What kind of singer is your favorite singer? Who's your favorite singer, Ronnie?" And he said, "Paul Rogers." Well, he didn't even flinch, And I said, that's funny because I know a guy who, he records with Frank Hannon too. And he's soulful and he's amazing. So, I put him in touch with Randy, and Randy and him hit it off instantly. I mean, it was ridiculous, And Ronnie got so excited. He's like, "You know what? I haven't found the right Montrose lineup to introduce some. I want to play some Gamma again too, because that's a little more soulful. I mean, Sammy's rocking, on the Montrose stuff, but I mean, the Gamma stuff is soulful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little more like maybe James Dewar from Robin Trower kind of vocals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different thing. So he needed somebody who could sing both efficiently, and he needed another great guy. There's no room for egos and all that kind of crap. It's just about being a real person and delivering good stuff. Randy fit the bill. He jumped in, and then we really had a big year ahead of us. I mean, we did some damage. I mean, we recorded a live DVD. It's going to get released. We went into a studio and also recorded a bunch of acoustic songs. Of interesting covers. Like, for example, Small Faces, Itchy 2 Park. We did a version of that.
Yeah.
We did a song for Lucky Man. We did some beautiful songs. And I wasn't with Ronnie his whole life. Me and Randy are both standing at the end of a long line of really talented musicians. And we just, it just turned into a family.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. He was, extremely happy. We'd have meals together. He loves to cook. Ronnie does. He's a gourmet chef, for gosh sakes. I mean, his food is amazing.
Wow.
He's the type of guy that puts like coffee grains in barbecue sauce, and you would think that wouldn't work, but it's amazing. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Right.
And we'd travel around. He'd tell us stories, and I started to realize, just there were so many things I didn't know that he did. I knew about the things he did, but if you're a rock historian, if you really, really delve into it, you'll get a bigger picture, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, he had stories of taking Van Halen out on their first tour.
Yeah.
Ted Templeman, who did, Van Halen 1 and 2,
Yeah.
who produced those records, well, guess what he did first? He did Montrose 1 and 2,
Yeah, I know.
Those records changed rock music. They just changed pop culture. They changed everything, and it's interesting that they had the opportunity to take Van Halen with them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And get them going. I just think it's amazing. But even before then, there's Ronnie playing with, Van Morrison, you know what I mean? Wild Nights, and then, Edgar Winter, Free Ride. He wrote that song, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein, it just goes on. And there's all the ones that he just guest starred on records and, with amazing artists. I mean, the guy touched so many people. It's really, really tough.